escalating global food prices into overdrive, Michael Snyder reports, the only way that we can continue to have cheap food is if we have cheap energy. We use energy to grow our food, to harvest our food, to produce our food, and to package our food. And transporting all of that food from the farm to the factory and then to the stores takes lots of money. Of course, it is not just our food supply that depends upon cheap energy. Ultimately, our entire way of life is predicted on the cheap energy paradigm, and if you take cheap energy away, everything changes. That's why this war in the Middle East could represent such a critical economic tipping point. 31% of the world's oil comes from the Middle East. If that supply is restricted or completely cut off for an extended period of time, we'll be in for a whole world of hurt. But don't just take my word for it. At this point, even the World Bank is sounding the alarm. They said oil prices could be pushed into uncharted waters, which could lead to higher food prices worldwide if the violence between Israel and Hamas intensifies, World Bank said. The bank's commodity market outlook found that while the effects on oil prices should be limited if the conflict does not widen, the outlook would darken quickly if the conflict were to escalate. In the worst-case scenario, the World Bank says that the price of oil could go as high as $157 a barrel. In a large disruption scenario comparable to the Arab oil embargo of 1973, the global oil supply would shrink by 6 million to 8 million barrels per day, and prices could go up by 56% to 75%, or $140 to $157 a barrel, according to the report. Other experts are projecting that the price of a barrel of oil could eventually go as high as $300 a barrel if energy prices start to scream higher as more parties join the war in the Middle East. Global food prices will go far higher than they are right now. Of course, they have already reached absurd levels. This month, a lot of Americans are complaining about ridiculously high candy prices. Over the past year, they've risen by 13% in the United States. Halloween candy inflation is up by double digits for the second year in a row, with prices 13% higher this October compared to the same time last year, according to new data. Prices of candy and gum in October 2022 had already increased by 14% from the previous year, the Associated Press reported over the weekend, citing data from retail price tracker Data Assembly. The price of candy has gotten to be outrageous, small business owner Jessica Weathers, who lives in the 14,400 resident village of Shiloh, Illinois. She said, "It doesn't make sense to me to spend $100 on candy." But that's nothing compared to what's happening to orange juice. Since March 2020, the price of frozen orange juice concentrate is up 388%. Orange juice futures hit a record a high of $4.1195 per pound, up 10% on Monday morning. The frozen orange juice concentrate has soared 388% since March 2020, as weather and disease crushed citrus supply in Florida, the biggest producer of oranges in the United States. David Branch of Wells Fargo recently told Yahoo Finance that Florida's orange crop is expected to come in around 713,000 tons, the smallest since 1936-37 season. Ouch. Do you remember the days when we could all afford to drink orange juice on a regular basis? Sadly, those days are long gone. At this stage, even a meal at McDonald's has become painfully expensive. If you can believe it, a Big Mac combo meal at one location in Connecticut now costs $18. However, McDonald's, which has 13,513 restaurants in the United States and over 38,000 restaurants abroad, did not disclose how much the franchisor has increased its prices, which generally vary between locations. One branch in Darien, Connecticut charges as much as $18 for a Big Mac combo meal, which includes medium fries and a medium soft drink. Meanwhile, that same Big Mac combo will run hungry patrons $13.69 at a McDonald's in Times Square. Thanks to these skyrocketing food prices, more Americans are going hungry than ever before. This week, we learned that the number of Americans suffering from hunger and food insecurity increased by more than 10 million from 2021 to 22. The number of Americans suffering from hunger and food insecurity exploded by more than 10 million under President Joe Biden, according to a U.S. Agriculture Department report this week that provided fresh evidence of inflation's impact of a basic staple of life. The report found 44.2 million Americans were living in food insecure households in 2022 compared to 33.8 million the year before. From 2021 to 22, there were statistically significant increases in food insecurity and very low food security for nearly all subgroups of households described in this report, USDA reported Wednesday. So if things were that bad in 2022, how high is that number today? My guess is that we are well beyond 50 million at this point, and what we have experienced so far is just the beginning. Unfortunately, the most Americans simply cannot comprehend what is happening. Our stores have always been packed to the gills with mountains of cheap food, and so for many people, it's really hard to understand that era is ending. If you've not already done so, I would very much encourage you to stockpile supplies of food while you still can, because this war in the Middle East is just getting started. The food prices will soon be shooting up to levels that would have once been considered unimaginable. This is by Michael Snyder, and he says, about the author, my name is Michael. My brand new book entitled End Times is now available on Amazon. In addition to my new book, I've written 6 other books that are available on Amazon, including 7-Year Apocalypse, Lost Prophecies of the Future America, The Beginning of the End, and Living a Life That Really Matters, commissions earned. When you purchase any of these books, you help to support the work that I'm doing, and one way that you can really help is by sending copies as gifts to family and friends. Time is short, and I need help getting these warnings into the hands of as many people as possible. I've also started a brand new Substack newsletter, and I encourage you to subscribe so that you won't miss any of my articles. I've published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream, and the Most Important News. And the articles that I publish on those sites are republished on dozens of other prominent websites all over the world. I always freely and happily allow others to republish my articles on their own websites, but I also ask that they include this about the author section with each article. The material contained in this article is for general information purposes only, and readers should consult licensed professionals before making any legal, business, financial, or health decisions. I encourage you to follow me on social media, Facebook and Twitter, and any way that you can share these articles with others is definitely a great help. These are such troubled times and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, I strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. This is on the Economic Collapse blog by Michael Snyder. Please leave your comment and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.